My name is Evelyn. I am 34 years old. My story is not a happy one at the start, but I hope it has a good ending. I live in a small, quiet town, the kind of town where everyone knows your name, or they think they do. I had a husband. His name was David. We were married for 10 years. I thought we were a happy family. I really did. Our house was small but pretty. It had a blue door and a small garden. I loved my garden. I planted red flowers and yellow flowers. They were bright and cheerful. Our life was simple. David worked in the next town. He sold parts for machines. His job was good. He made enough money. I worked part-time at the local bookstore. I loved books. I loved the smell of old paper. My life was calm. Maybe too calm. David was a good husband, I thought. He was kind. He was quiet. He often worked late. Sometimes he had to travel for his job. He would be gone for 2 or 3 days. He would go to a city far away, he said, for a big meeting with important people. I would miss him. The house felt empty when he was gone, but I was proud of him. He worked so hard for us, for our future. We had a routine. In the morning, we had coffee together. He read the newspaper. I looked at my garden through the window. He would kiss my cheek before he left for work. "Have a good day, Evie," he always said. And I would say, "You too, David." In the evening, we had dinner. We talked about our day. His day was usually about work. My day was about the bookstore or my garden. Then we watched television. It was a simple life, a predictable life. I thought it was a happy life. I thought I was lucky. But sometimes there were small, strange things. Things I did not understand. But I did not ask. I did not want to cause trouble. For example, David had 2 phones. One phone for work, he said. One phone for personal calls. But his personal phone was always silent. He kept it in his pocket. Always. He never left it on the table. Sometimes he would get a message late at night. He would go into the other room to read it. "It's just work," he would say if I asked. I believed him. Why would I not believe my husband? Another thing was his memory. Sometimes he forgot small things. One year, for our anniversary, I cooked a special dinner. The same dinner I made on our first date. He looked at the food. "This is nice, Evie," he said. But he did not remember. He did not remember that it was special. I felt a little sad. But I told myself, he is busy. He has a lot on his mind. I made excuses for him. I always made excuses. He never talked much about his work trips. When he came back, he was always very tired. "The meetings were long," he would say. "I just need to rest." He would sleep for many hours. I would unpack his bag for him. I would wash his clothes. His clothes always smelled clean. Not like a hotel. Not like a city. They smelled like fresh air. Like laundry dried in the sun. It was strange, but I ignored it. It is easy to ignore things when you want everything to be okay. Our life continued like this for a long time. Quiet, simple, predictable. I was content. Or maybe I was just asleep, living in a dream. And I did not know that a storm was coming. A big storm that would destroy my quiet, simple life. The day it happened was a Tuesday. It was a normal day. The sun was shining. I went to work at the bookstore. I came home. I started to make dinner. David was on a work trip. He was in a city called Northwood. A 3-day trip, he said. He was coming home tomorrow. I was making his favorite meal. Chicken and potatoes. The house was quiet. Just the sound of the clock ticking on the wall. Tick, tock, tick, tock, like a small, patient heart. Then the phone rang, our home phone. I wiped my hands and answered it. "Hello," I said. It was a woman. Her voice was shaking. "Is this the home of David Miller?" she asked. "Yes, it is." "I am his wife, Evelyn," I said. "Is something wrong?" "There's been an accident," the woman said. "A car accident. David is at Northwood General Hospital. He's hurt." My heart stopped. The world went silent. All I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. An accident, David, hurt. The words echoed in my mind. "Is he okay?" I whispered. My voice was small. I felt very cold. "He is stable," the woman said. She was a nurse, she explained. "But he is unconscious. He was asking for someone named Anna and Leo. He said them before he lost consciousness. We found this number in his wallet under home. We thought you should know. Anna, Leo. I did not know anyone named Anna or Leo. My mind was spinning. Confusion and fear mixed together. Maybe they were people from his work. I will come right away," I said. I wrote down the hospital name. Northwood. That was the city he was in. At least that part was true. I hung up the phone. My hands were shaking so much I could not hold a glass of water. I packed a small bag. My hands moved, but my mind was numb. I felt like I was watching a movie. This was not my life. This could not be real. I got in my car. I started the long drive to Northwood. It was 3 hours away. 3 hours of driving in the dark. My mind was filled with questions. How bad was the accident? Would David be okay? And who were Anna and Leo? When I got to the hospital, it was late at night. The hospital was bright and clean. It smelled like medicine. I found the front desk. I told them my name. Evelyn Miller. My husband, David Miller, was in an accident. The nurse at the desk looked at her computer. She looked at me with a strange expression. A mix of pity and confusion. "Mrs. Miller," she said slowly. "Another woman is already with him. She said she is his wife." The words hit me like a wall. His wife? No, that's impossible. I am his wife. I showed her my driver's license. My name, Evelyn Miller, our address. The nurse looked very uncomfortable. "Let me get the doctor," she said. She walked away quickly. I stood there. My legs felt weak. Another woman, his wife. It had to be a mistake. A terrible, terrible mistake. The doctor came out. He was a kind-looking man with tired eyes. He took me to a small, private room. "Mrs. Miller," he began gently, "there seems to be a complicated situation." "What do you mean?" I asked. My voice trembled. "Where is my husband? Is he okay?" "He is stable for now," the doctor said. "He has a head injury. He is still unconscious. We are monitoring him closely." He paused. He took a deep breath. "The other woman, her name is Anna. She is listed as his emergency contact. Her last name is also Miller. She brought their son with her. His name is Leo. Anna, Leo. The names the nurse on the phone had mentioned. The names David had said. A son. They had a son." I think I stopped breathing. The room started to spin. A son. David had a son. With another woman. A woman who called herself his wife. No, no, no. It couldn't be true. My David. My quiet, kind David. It was a lie. A mistake. "I don't understand," I whispered. "We don't have a son. We don't have children." The doctor looked at me with so much sadness in his eyes. "I think you need to talk to her," he said softly. "She is in the waiting room down the hall." I felt like I couldn't move. Every part of me wanted to run away. To go back to my car, drive home to my little house with the blue door, and pretend this night never happened. But another part of me needed to know. I had to know. I had to see this other woman. This Anna. I walked down the hall. My feet felt like lead. Each step was heavy. The hallway seemed very long. I saw the waiting room, and I saw her. She was sitting in a plastic chair. She was crying softly. Next to her was a small boy. He was sleeping. His head was on her lap. He looked about 6 or 7 years old. He had brown hair, just like David's hair. The woman looked up as I approached. Her eyes were red from crying. She looked tired and scared. She was pretty. She looked like a kind person. I hated her. I hated her instantly. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice was soft. "I am Evelyn," I said. My own voice sounded strange to me. "I am David's wife." Her face went pale. All the color drained away. She stood up slowly. She looked at me. Then she looked at the sleeping boy, then back at me. Her eyes filled with a new kind of pain, a pain of understanding. "No," she whispered. "I am his wife. I am Anna." We just stood there, in the middle of the night, in a cold hospital waiting room. 2 women, 2 wives of the same man. A man who was lying in a hospital bed a few feet away. A man who had built 2 lives, 2 houses, 2 families. A man who had broken 2 hearts. My perfect, simple world did not just crack. It exploded. It turned into a million tiny pieces. And I was standing in the middle of the dust and rubble. I did not know who I was anymore. I did not know what was real. The only thing I knew for sure was that my whole life, my 10 years of marriage, had been a lie. A complete and total lie. I don't know how long we stood there in silence. Anna and I just staring at each other. The sleeping boy, Leo, moved a little in his chair. He made a small sound. That sound broke the spell. Anna looked down at her son. Her face softened. She gently stroked his hair, my husband's hair. Seeing that small, gentle action hurt more than anything. It made it all real. This boy was real. Her love for him was real. Her life with David was real. We should sit down, I said finally. My voice was a dry whisper. We sat in the hard plastic chairs on opposite sides of the small waiting room, as far away as we could get from each other. How long? I asked. I needed to know. I needed to understand the shape of this lie. Anna wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. We have been married for 8 years, she said quietly. Leo is 7. 8 years. He married her 2 years after he married me. He was living 2 lives for 8 whole years. The business trips, the late nights, the second phone. It all clicked into place. Each piece of the puzzle was a small betrayal. A small lie that built this giant, monstrous secret. I felt sick. Physically sick. Like I was going to throw up. Where do you live? I asked. I needed to know the geography of his lie. We live in a town called Oakhaven, she said. It's about an hour from here. Oakhaven. I had never heard of it. It was in the opposite direction from our town. David's work was in the middle. He had built his 2 worlds perfectly. A home with me in the east, a home with her in the west, his work in the center. He was a spider, and we were 2 flies caught in his web. He told me his job required a lot of travel, Anna said. Her voice was flat, empty. He said he had to manage a territory on the other side of the state. He was gone 2 or 3 nights a week. Every week. He told me the same thing, I whispered. The exact same thing. We were quiet again. What was there to say? We were 2 strangers connected by the same lie. We had both loved the same man. Or at least, we had loved the man we thought he was. But that man didn't exist. He was an actor, playing 2 different parts. The doctor came back. He told us there was no change in David's condition. He was still unconscious. You should both try to get some rest, he said gently. It might be a long night. Rest? How could I rest? My mind was racing. I thought about my house, our house, the bed we shared, the pictures on the wall, a picture from our wedding. We were smiling. Did he go home to her and smile in the same way? Did he kiss her goodnight? Did he tell her he loved her? The questions burned in my mind. I looked at Leo again. He was a beautiful little boy, an innocent child caught in the middle of his father's deception. He had David's eyes. I could see it even while he was sleeping. I felt a strange mix of anger and sadness when I looked at him. He was the proof, the living, breathing proof that my life was a sham. But he was also just a little boy who might lose his father. It was all so complicated, so messy. Anna must have seen me looking at him. He's a good boy, she whispered. He loves his dad so much. David was a wonderful father. A wonderful father. The word stung. David and I had talked about children once. Years ago. He said he wasn't ready. He said we needed more money, More time. He kept pushing it off. Now I knew why. He already had a child. He was already a father. He just didn't want to be a father with me. The sun started to rise. The light came through the hospital window. A new day was starting. But my world felt dark. I felt so alone, more alone than I had ever felt in my life. I was in a strange city, in a hospital, with my husband's other wife and his son. A nurse came and said we could see him now. One at a time. You should go first, I said to Anna. You have been here longer. Maybe I said it because I was kind. Or maybe I said it because I was a coward. I was scared to see him. I was scared of what I would feel. Anna went in. She was gone for a few minutes. When she came out, her face was wet with fresh tears. She didn't look at me. She just went back to her chair and held her sleeping son's hand. Then it was my turn. I stood up. My legs were still shaking. I walked to his room. I pushed the door open slowly. And there he was, my husband, David. He was lying in the bed. He looked pale. There were tubes and wires connected to him. A machine next to the bed was beeping steadily. Beep, beep, beep. The sound of his heart. A heart that belonged to two women. I walked closer. I looked at his face. It was the same face I had kissed every morning for 10 years. The same face I had loved. But now he looked like a stranger. I looked at him, lying there so still and broken. And I felt nothing. Not love, not hate, just a vast, cold emptiness. The man I married was a ghost. He never existed. The person lying in this bed was someone I didn't know at all. I stood there for a long time, just looking, thinking. My quiet life was gone. My happy home was a lie. The future I had imagined was a fantasy. Everything was broken. And I knew, with a certainty that was both terrifying and liberating, that I could never go back. I could not unknow this truth. I could not pretend anymore. The dream was over. And I was awake, terribly, painfully awake. I walked out of the hospital room. I did not look at Anna. I did not say goodbye. There was nothing left to say. I walked out of the hospital into the morning sunlight. The world looked different, sharper, colder. I got in my car. I did not know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't go back. Not to the little house with the blue door. That house wasn't a home anymore. It was just a stage, a set for a play. And my part in the play was over. I drove for hours. I had no destination. I just drove. The road stretched out in front of me. It was a gray ribbon pulling me away from my old life. I watched the towns and trees pass by my window. They were just a blur. My mind was a storm of thoughts and memories. I remembered our wedding day. I wore a simple white dress. David looked so handsome in his suit. He smiled at me. He said, "I will love you forever, Evie." Was he lying then? Did he know, even then, that his promises were empty? Or did he believe them? Was it possible to love two people at once? I didn't think so. Love was about truth, about trust, David didn't know the meaning of those words. I thought about all the business trips, all the times I had packed his bag. I had worried about him. I had missed him. And all that time he was with her, with Anna, with their son, Leo. He wasn't in a lonely hotel room. He was in another home, playing the part of another husband, another father. He was living a whole other life that I knew nothing about. Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't stop them. They were tears of sadness for the life I had lost. But they were also tears of anger. Anger at David for his selfishness, for his cowardice. He didn't have the courage to choose, so he tried to have everything. And in the end, he would lose it all. And he had hurt so many people. Me, Anna, and that innocent little boy, Leo. Leo would grow up knowing his father was a liar. I felt angry at myself too. How could I have been so blind, so naive? The signs were there. The second phone, the forgotten memories, the strange smell on his clothes. I had seen them, but I had chosen to ignore them. I wanted to believe in our perfect, simple life. I didn't want to see the cracks. It was easier to pretend. But pretending doesn't make the truth go away. It just makes the fall harder when it finally comes. I drove until the car ran out of gas. I was in a small town I did not recognize. I pulled into a gas station. I sat in the car for a long time. I felt empty, drained. I had no plan, no future. I had a little money in my purse, a credit card. That was it. My life with David, our shared bank accounts, our house, all of that felt like it belonged to someone else now. I finally got out of the car. I filled it with gas. I went inside the small store to pay. The woman behind the counter smiled at me. "Rough day?" she asked kindly. She must have seen my red, swollen eyes. I just nodded. I couldn't speak. I bought a bottle of water and a sandwich I knew I couldn't eat. I went back to my car. I sat there. Where do I go now? The question echoed in the quiet car. I couldn't go home. I couldn't face that empty house full of lies. I couldn't sleep in that bed. I couldn't look at the pictures on the wall. And I couldn't go back to the hospital. That was not my place anymore. I had one other place to go. A place I hadn't been in a long time. My sister's house. My sister, Clara. We were not very close. She lived in the city, 4 hours away. She was very different from me. She was loud and strong, and she always spoke her mind. She thought my life with David was boring. "You need more excitement, Evie," she always said. Maybe she was right. I had not called her in months. I felt ashamed to call her now. To show up at her door, broken and lost. But I had nowhere else to go. I needed someone. I needed family. So I started driving again. This time, I had a destination. I drove towards the city, towards Clara. It was the hardest phone call I ever had to make. My hands were shaking as I dialed her number. "Evie," she said when she answered. She sounded surprised to hear from me. "Is everything okay?" And then it all came out. The whole story. The hospital, David, Anna, Leo, the other life, the lies. I told her everything. I cried and talked, and she listened. She didn't say anything. She just listened until I was finished, until I had no more words, no more tears. "Where are you now?" she asked. Her voice was calm and strong. "I'm driving," I said. "I don't know what to do, Clara." "You come here," she said simply. "You come to my house. I'll leave the door unlocked. Just come straight here. We'll figure it out, together." Hearing her say that word, together, made me cry again. But this time, the tears were different. They were tears of relief. I wasn't completely alone. I had my sister. When I finally arrived at her apartment, it was dark again. A full day had passed since my old life had ended. I was exhausted. I felt like I had aged 10 years in one day. The door was unlocked, just like she said. I walked in. Clara was waiting for me. She didn't say much. She just opened her arms and held me. I hugged her back, and I felt a little piece of me start to mend. Just a tiny piece. But it was a start. Living with Clara was different. Her apartment was small and a little messy. Not like my clean, orderly house. There were books piled everywhere. Bright paintings on the walls. Music was always playing. It was a place full of life. It was so different from the quiet silence I was used to. At first, I didn't do much. I slept a lot. I sat on her sofa and stared out the window. The city was so loud, so many people, so many cars. It felt overwhelming. Clara was patient with me. She made me tea. She cooked simple meals. She didn't push me to talk. She just let me be sad. She let me grieve for the life I thought I had. "It's okay to be a mess, Evie," she told me one day. "Your heart is broken. It needs time to heal. Be kind to yourself." Slowly, very slowly, I started to feel a little bit human again. I started to help Clara with cooking. I started to read some of the books from her piles. I took short walks around her neighborhood. The city was still loud, but I started to notice other things too. The smell of coffee from a small cafe. The sound of children laughing in a park. Life was happening all around me. My life had stopped, but the world kept going. I had to deal with the practical things. It was very hard. I had to call a lawyer. I had to talk about divorce, about the house, about money. Every conversation was painful. It was a reminder of David's betrayal. I learned more about David's other life. Through the lawyers. He had 2 bank accounts, 2 mortgages, 2 lives, paid for with the money he earned. He had been so careful, so organized in his lies. The lawyer told me David was awake now. He was recovering. I felt nothing when I heard this. No relief, no anger, just emptiness. He was a stranger to me now. Anna and I had to communicate through our lawyers. We never spoke to each other again. I learned that she was also divorcing him. She was going to stay in the house in Oakhaven with her son. I was glad for that. Leo needed his home. He didn't deserve to lose everything because because of his father's mistakes. Our house, the one with the blue door, had to be sold. Everything inside it sold too. All our furniture, our books, our pictures. 10 years of my life packed into boxes and taken away. It hurt, but it was also necessary. I needed to let go. I couldn't hold on to a life that was never real. I got some money from the sale of the house. Not a lot, but enough. Enough to start over. It was terrifying. I was 34 years old. I had no husband, no house. My part-time job was in another town. I had nothing but a small amount of money and a broken heart. But I also had my sister. And I was starting to find something else too. Something I hadn't had in a long time. Myself. Away from David. Away from the quiet, perfect house. I started to remember who I was before I met him. I was a girl who loved to paint. I was a girl who dreamed of seeing the ocean. I was a girl who had her own thoughts, her own ideas. I had buried that girl for 10 years. I had made myself small to fit into David's simple, quiet life. A life that was a lie anyway. I decided to stay in the city. I found a very small apartment. It was nothing special, just one room. But it was mine. All mine. I painted the walls a bright, sunny yellow. The color I had always wanted for my kitchen. Clara helped me. We laughed as we painted. It felt good to laugh again. I found a new job. At a big library in the city. It was busy and exciting. I met new people. I talked to them about books. I felt useful. I felt like I was part of the world again. Healing is not a straight line. There were bad days. Days when I felt so sad and lonely. Days when the anger came back. I would see a happy couple holding hands on the street, and my heart would ache. I wondered if I could ever trust anyone again. David had destroyed my ability to trust. But there were good days too. I started painting again. I bought some cheap paints and a canvas. I painted the ocean. A big, blue, powerful ocean. It made me feel strong. I joined a book club at the library. I made a few friends. We talked about books and life. Real conversations. Not the quiet, empty dinners I had with David. One weekend, Clara and I drove to the coast. I saw the ocean for the first time. I stood on the sand and watched the waves. They were so big, so endless. I took off my shoes and walked into the water. It was cold, but it felt amazing. I felt like I was washing away the past, washing away the sadness, the lies. It has been 2 years now. 2 years since my old life ended and my new life began. I am different now. I am stronger. I am also quieter in some ways, more careful. The scars on my heart are still there. I think they will always be there. But they don't hurt all the time anymore. They are just a part of me now. A reminder of what I survived. I never saw David again. I don't know what happened to him. I try not to think about him. He is a ghost from another life. I hope Anna and Leo are okay. I truly do. They were victims too. My life is not perfect now. It is sometimes hard. I worry about money. I get lonely. But my life is real. It is my own. I make my own decisions. I paint my walls whatever color I want. I can be loud or quiet. I can be happy or sad. I can be me. And that is a wonderful feeling. It is a feeling of freedom. If you are listening to my story, maybe you feel lost too. Maybe your heart is broken. Maybe you feel like your life is not your own. I want you to know that you are not alone. It is okay to be scared. It is okay to be sad. But please believe in yourself. You are stronger than you think. The storm will pass, and when it does, you will see the sun again. You can build a new life, a life that is true, a life that is yours. It takes time. It takes courage. But you can do it. You can find your way back to yourself. Keep going.